Okay, the time has finally come. Let's make conchas. I'm gonna be walking you through my traditional brioche dough that I use for my regular flavors, chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. You're gonna need lots of time and patience, but I promise you that the more you practice this recipe, the better each batch is going to turn out. And thank you for watching. Starting off with some basic info, you want your butter and eggs to be cold. A lot of bakers are like, oh my God, you need a room temp. The dough is gonna go through so much kneading in the mixer. It's going to create friction and heat that is going to just like throw off the consistency of your dough. So if you start cold, they're gonna warm up to the temperature that you want it. Highly recommend a kitchen scale. I'm gonna be measuring in grams in this video, but I'll convert everything in the caption. If you wanna do it by hand, it's gonna take a long time to knead. That is how I originally learned. The stand mixer will just make your life that much easier. Okay, we're activating our yeast, 1 packet or 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. 3/4 of a cup of water or milk that is at 105 to 110 degrees. I always use milk, but I don't have milk right now. Add like a drizzle of honey. Mix till combined, cover it with plastic and let it sit for 10 minutes till it's foamy. You should see a layer like this. It should be doubled in size. I could let it go a little longer, but we can just get into it. I know it's alive. I can now start to add the rest of my liquid ingredients. So 3 eggs, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, sift in 1/2 cup of my sugar. I'm gonna move this all to my scale, clear it all out, and then I'm gonna weigh out 550 grams of flour and make sure that's sifted into my bowl. And lastly, I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which is just like a small pinch. Just kidding, salt was not the last step. You're also going to add a few shakes of cinnamon, about 5 shakes. And at this point is where I add matcha. I do about 3 tablespoons in my dough. I'm using my stand mixer fitted with a spiral hook. You could also use the C hook. I'm going to mix on 2, so like a low speed, for about a minute until I get a homogeneous dough. Make sure to scrape down the sides so everything is evenly mixed. Okay, I've stopped my mixer. Actually let it run for about 3 to 4 minutes. You want the dough to kind of come together like this. It's going to look a little rough. We're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes before we start adding the butter. Now we're going to begin to add in our butter. You're going to need about 6.5 tablespoons. I like to kind of break it apart, make sure that your butter is already cut into pieces. You're going to add it while your mixer is running on low speed, so 2 until it's fully combined. Once your butter is all combined, you're going to crank up the speed of your mixer to about medium speed. I like to do it at 4 for another 10 minutes. You're going to really want to watch what's happening to your dough. You're going to see it come together in a ball, then it's going to collapse and it's going to come together again. Start pulling away from the sides, and then eventually you're looking for a very elastic dough. So this has just gone for another 10 minutes after the butter was incorporated. And I'm going to squeeze off a little piece of dough. It's still a little sticky, but like not to where I'm like, oh my God. And I'm going to see if I can pull my ventana, my gluten window, without getting any ribs. And this looks pretty good. Like I can pull it so far and it just started to rip, but that's a pretty good gluten window. So once this is all set, you're going to just let the dough rest for another 10 minutes, and then you're going to transfer it to a buttered bowl. I'm buttering my hands with some gloves and also prepping a large bowl. My dough has rested 10 minutes, so now I'm going to take it out of the mixer. With your buttered hands, it's going to be really easy to pull it out of the mixer. It's going to still feel a little wet, but like I said, not sticky. You can see how strong the dough is. It's developed a lot of nice gluten. I'm going to form it into a nice ball and then add it to my prepared buttered bowl. It should be nice and smooth and easy to work with. I'm going to add a little bit more butter to the top just so it doesn't dry out. Cover it with plastic and a kitchen towel or whatever. And we're going to let it take a little nap until it doubles in size. This usually takes about 2 hours. It's really hot right now, so it might take a little bit of a shorter time. Check on your dough throughout the time that it's resting to see where it's at. I'm going to put it in my oven with the light on. While your dough is resting, we're going to make our toppings. In a medium bowl, add 125 grams of all-purpose flour, 125 grams of powdered sugar, 125 grams of Crisco or vegetable shortening, and about 10 milliliters vanilla extract. I like to break this up first with my hands. Gloves make your life easier until you get a homogeneous, almost cookie-like dough. And then I start to add my flavoring. This is some ground up abuelita chocolate. I like to use a very high quality chocolate, but my stash from Morelos is running out. I also add about 50 grams of cocoa powder and a pinch of espresso powder. And then I just mix it until I have a nice smooth dough. I'll then measure out each topping to 20 grams and set them aside on a baking sheet. You can do this step ahead of time and store everything in your fridge. Super helpful if you're making a lot of flavors. It's now been 2 hours. My dough has risen. You know it's ready when you can press it and it leaves a little indent. Remove it from your bowl and gently press out the air. You then want to repeat this like you're folding an envelope, gently pressing out the gas each time you fold it over. Just fold it over about 4 times. Your dough should feel nice and smooth and not sticky. Next, we're going to weigh out our dough. I usually do 50 grams and this yields about 20 with this recipe, but today I'm doing 60 grams. The standard is about 70 to 75 grams per concha. If you don't have a scale, just evenly divide your dough into how many you want. I'm tired, so I'm only making 6 today. Now we are ready to shape. You're going to form a C with your hands and lay it flat on a surface. You're going to let your hand do the work to form the dough into a small ball. I like to kind of pre-shape it, and then I just let my hand be the tool. You want to be really gentle with it. You don't have to go too hard. And then I make sure that my bottom is sealed almost like a dumpling, and I proceed with the rest of my dough. You want your little bolitas to be nice and smooth. And then you're going to transfer them to a parchment lined baking sheet. When I'm baking a lot, I like to max out the space on my baking sheet, but for best results, try to spread them out. That way they can cook evenly and they won't stick to each other. Okay, this is where I get crazy. I get a regular old produce bag and I cut it so that I can fold it over a ball of toppings sandwiched in between. And then I literally press it down with a plate. You can obviously use a tortilla press or your hands. I also totally missed adding butter to the tops of my dough here, so please do that before you gently place the tapa on top so that your conchas come out golden. It also helps the toppings stay on. You want to gently flatten them down so that they prove to that traditional concha shape. And then you're going to score them. I don't use a stamp. I like to gently score mine individually with a paring knife. It just gives it a really like homemade feel. Make sure you don't go through the topping, and then you're going to cover them up and let them proof for another hour or so, or until they double in size. You know they're ready when you get an indent when you press into them and the toppings have stretched out a bit. They'll be really soft. You're going to preheat your oven to 325, and when it's hot, you're going to add a tray filled with water so it helps the topping not get weird. Bake for about 18 to 20 minutes, flipping the tray halfway. You're supposed to let your conchas rest for 20 minutes, but honestly, I love them fresh out of the oven and I have no patience. All the work is so worth it when you pull them out of the oven. Like I said, I missed the butter pre-tapa here, so these came out a little less tan, but my bottoms are nice and golden. And now it's time to tear one apart. They will be fluffy, they should bounce back when you squeeze them, and that is it. Let me know if you make these and if you have any questions at all. Now go impress your suegra and your friends.